Hi folks, wants to make a quick revision video to help you study these sort of questions here. The question is, a student stands on some bathroom scales which read in newtons. At time t equal 1 second, she starts to crouch down, taking 1 second to do so, and then she remains stationary in that position. The graph shows how the reading or on the scale changes. The first thing to realise is that the reading on the scale doesn't measure the person's weight. The reading measures the normal reaction force of the scales on the person. Now, I suppose there's 5 parts of this graph that you need to understand. There's a line down that way, there's a line that way, there's a straight line here, a line, and the final bit there. To understand this graph, you need to understand the motion of the centre of mass. So what I've done is I've drawn a velocity time graph for the centre of mass for the person who is going down. And in this little sheet I've made down the positive direction. So what happens? Well, at the start the person's velocity increases and the slope or the gradient of that line is increasing as well, all the way up to about sort of points. Well, it's actually much further up along on mine, it's actually there on mine, but the gradient is increasing and increasing and increasing and increasing and increasing, and at that point there the gradient is actually decreasing. So we know the gradient of a velocity time graph is the acceleration. So what actually happens to the acceleration is the gradient increases up to this point, and then the gradient decreases. So then the person achieves a constant velocity. In other words, there is no acceleration, and then the person slows down. So the gradient of the end part of that graph, well, it decreases, negative, 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 and then the gradient gets less and less and less after about this point here. So the gradient's got its maximum value there, and then it gets less and less and less and less. So the 5 points in the graph really are, at the very first section, this section here, well, the velocity of the centre of mass is positive, the acceleration is positive, in other words they're speeding up in the downward direction, and the acceleration is getting larger and larger. The next section of the graph, what is happening is, well, the velocity is still in the downward direction. Their acceleration is also still in the downward direction, but the rate of their acceleration is getting smaller and smaller. Then they've got they're not accelerating at all here, so the reading on the weighing scales will just be the person's weight. And then what's happening is, the fourth section is what's happening is the velocity of the centre of mass is positive and the acceleration is negative. In other words, it's slowing down, so the weighing scales, the normal force of the weighing scales on the person is increasing. And now in the last section of the graph, the person has still got a positive velocity, the acceleration is still negative, but the rate of acceleration is getting less and less. Okay folks, best luck in your exam tomorrow. Bye bye.